Good morning. Welcome back to the Bookstack Coffee Chat. I was just busy trying to finalize everything for today's episode. I have a lot to share with you. So as you jump on, it's always good to see you. Be sure to feel free to share in the comments if you're watching live or watching the replay. I always love to hear from you and love to interact with you. So today it's Thursday. So here we are, another week. But I wanted to mention that last week I said I was going to put together a blog post featuring all of the books that I have shared to date. And so I didn't realize how much of an endeavor that was going to be because I didn't want to just list the books. I also wanted to provide you with links so that you could order the books if you wanted to. Also provided the cover images of them. And I also included direct links to each episode of the Coffee Chat if you wanted to go back and hear what I said about the books. Excuse me 1 second. I'm working on cup number 2 of coffee today. So that I'm happy to say that blog post is now live. It is on my website, dailenbickle.com. You can /blog. You can go there to see that new post, which is called Discover Your Next Read, 57 Book Recommendations from the Bookstack Coffee Chat. So feel free to go there at your leisure and look at that, and as well as the other blog posts that are there. Also, the Sunday is Mother's Day. Is it sneaking up on you? Have you gotten your mother a present yet? If not, or if you'd like to add to what you've gotten her, a couple of recommendations. You know that I am a big proponent of life story. So if you have not spoken to her and encouraged her to share her story, please do so. I mean, I have a couple of resources to help you in that regard. If she likes to write, I have a free resource on my website to help her get started. Of course, this is good for anyone, not just moms, but you can point her to there. But also, if you want to give her an actual tangible gift, I have a book called The 1 Year Collection of Weekly Writing Prompts. And let me just show you a picture of that really quickly. That is available on Amazon.com. And that just prompts her with one question a week. And by the end of the year, she'll have her basic life story written. Easy to do. And of course, you don't have to wait all year to do it. You can do more than one question a week, but know that that is available. So now let me get some of this stuff off of there so we can dive into what I've been reading this week. One book I haven't finished yet because if you read the blog post, there's one book that I recommended before I actually finished reading it. So I've learned my lesson. And so now I am going to be finishing books before I share them. But anyway, hopefully that book that I'm currently reading, I will share next week. But yesterday, I actually was like, I didn't have a chance to finish that book I was wanting to for this week. What am I going to share? So I went back to my bookshelf of books that I've previously read. And I think you'll enjoy these. And they're timely, too. Welcome, I see you popping on there. Welcome back to the Bookstack. So the first book is, let me get the title of it going here so you can see that. It is World War II on the Air. There we go. Edward R. Murrow and the Broadcast That Riveted a Nation. And there's a CD included in this book. So one of our local libraries a couple of years ago was having its annual book sale. And so, I mean, the auditorium was just filled with, book donations that everyone had given, and the proceeds were going to the library. And I picked this up, I think, for $2, something like that, $2 or $3. But I was like, I bet the CD isn't still in there. And lo and behold, inside the front flap, the CD is still there. And I got it home. I'm like, I wonder if it's scratched. Will it work? I was so excited. It still works. And why am I excited about this CD? Because it is actual audio recordings of Edward R. Murrow's live broadcast during World War II. and some of the other correspondents on the radio. So it's very fascinating. The book itself includes the front of it, beginning of it is more of a biography of Robert R. Morrow and the whole history of radio, and the importance radio played in World War II. And it's really, really rather interesting. I had a couple of things I wanted to share with you from the text. So it's saying that in 1928, Americans spent an astonishing $650 million on radios that had recently been developed. Within a decade, most American homes had one. So, I mean, think about that. In 1928, $650 million were spent on radios. Just fascinating to me. And it went on to say how beginning of radio was more about entertainment, little sketches, stories read, entertainers, singers, that kind of thing. It wasn't until really World War II that they became known for news, breaking news, and commentary. But I thought this was interesting too about Robert Morrow, or R. Morrow, Edward R. Murrow. Why am I messing up his name so badly? So sorry, forgive me. Edward R. Murrow. So before he got into radio, he had very humble beginnings, but very intelligent and astute, and a great debater. And he became, let's see here. He became a part of the group. It's saying IIE, and I'm trying to remember what that stands for. The Institute of International Education. So he was a proponent of international education, the student rights of people no matter where they lived. And so when Hitler began to purge German institutions of his political opponents and all non-Aryans, Murrow, who was part of the IIE, led a coalition of 21 American college heads to form this emergency committee in aid of displaced German scholars. The committee's purpose was to place academics targeted by the Nazis in American universities. Murrow would be responsible for implementing its mission. As Assistant Secretary for the Emergency Committee, Murrow's participation in helping some of the best minds in Europe escape Nazi Germany proved to be one of the most difficult and rewarding chapters of his life. He would, over 2 years, help to bring 335 scholars to American universities, including novelist Thomas Mann, physicist James Franck, political scientist Karl Lowenstein, philosopher Herbert Marcuse, and theologian Martin Buber. And he went on to say that, so that was 335 individuals that he helped get into American universities, but there were more than 6,000 who had applied. So yeah, out of 6,000 people, only 335 were able to be instituted into American universities. And then it goes on, throughout the book, it shares more history of the war. It shows actual photos of the war throughout. It gives more background about each of the events that the recordings on the CD discuss. So if you love history like me, if you love World War II history, this is a great, great book. One other thing I wanted to share here, a quote from here I thought was good about Murrow and his influence. It says, Murrow was influential, perhaps ironically, because he did not seek to persuade. He was deferential to his audience. On September 1st, 1939, the day Germany invaded Poland, he reported the speculation about England's next move, then added, quote, I have an old-fashioned belief that Americans like to make up their own minds on the basis of all available information. The conclusions you draw are your own affair. On another occasion, he said, what I think of events in Europe is no more important than what you think, but I do have certain opportunities for observation and study. And it goes on to say he was his listeners' ally, not their instructor. And with everything going on in today's world, wouldn't it be nice to not be necessarily told what to think, but to be given all of the information and allowed to make up our own minds? as Murrow said. So there was that book. I encourage you to check that out. The next one I thought I'd share because it's also graduation season. And so this book is called, let's get that one up there. This one is called Another Tassel is Moved, Guidelines for College Graduates by O Caldwell. So this one actually had been gifted to me back in 1996. So I'm kind of giving away my age there. But it was printed in 1995. So that was the most recent one. And I got to thinking, oh, I wonder if they've updated it since, because this, I think, was the 15th printing. I think, let me see here. The first copyright, I believe, was 1970. So I was like, oh, I wonder if they've continued, but unfortunately they have not. Apparently this was the last edition. I went on Amazon to see if I would be able to provide a link for you guys to buy, and there is one copy available. So if you're the first to go visit there, you might be able to luck out and get that copy. But anyway, I thought, oh, well, there might be a couple of nuggets in here that I can share, or some things that I might be reminded of. And just look at all the tabs I have there. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of good information in here. But I'm not going to share all of those with you, so don't worry. I'm not going to do that to you. But I did want to share several. So the title of this episode is, opportunities and how will you handle the next chapter in your life. So this book kind of goes into that. It shares, I'll get more into the hows in a few minutes, but there were a couple of quotes that I wanted to share first. And this first one is about procrastination. They're talking about money and money management and how often that's not taught in university settings, how to handle personal finances and everything. And it's saying that procrastination is the waste of precious time, results in lost opportunity. Well, I think that applies not only to finances, but in life in general. And I love this little rhyme that it shares in here. And it doesn't quote who the author is. So I don't know who it was that wrote this, but I thought it was good. Procrastination is my sin. It causes me endless sorrow. But I've made up my mind to quit, and I'll begin tomorrow. How often do we procrastinate on things we know we should do, but just don't do it? And that's it's our loss, because once we start doing the things we know we need to do, then we're like, oh, I should have done that sooner, right? Then it says again about how failing to realize how money must be managed to accomplish a financial goal. Many students graduate from academic programs still unprepared to manage and invest money wisely. And if you have watched, I did an episode last fall on money management. There's a book by Dr. Richard G. Morrison called The Plant and Grow Your Money, A Financial Guide for Young Adults. And that book, I actually helped him self-publish that book, and I don't know if I don't still have the image of that. But if you go to that blog post, you can see the direct link to that book. It would make a great, great graduation gift for those in your life, especially from high school or from college. The next thing I wanted to share from this book is so when we're facing new chapters, new opportunities, whether we've sought them out or they're finding us, like when you graduate college, you're not quite certain of what's going to happen next. If you start a new job or if you retire, whatever that life stage is that you're ending and you're preparing to go into it, there's a lot of unknowns, right? And we're often worried about making mistakes. At least I am. I'm speaking for myself here. Almost everything I share on the episodes here is related to me somehow. So it's talking about a gentleman named Weatherwood. He was a young British officer in World War I. And during an assignment to India, he was given an opportunity to observe the great skills of rug weavers. As he passed among the workers, he turned to his guide and asked what happens if the weaver makes a mistake. The guide answered, if he is a great enough artist, He will weave the mistake into the pattern. We who are Christians have the assurance that the divine artist is great enough to take even our blunders and weave them into the pattern of a life that will glorify him. Now, I find that highly encouraging, and I hope you do too. So, we shouldn't procrastinate. We shouldn't let fear of making a mistake stop us from stepping out into the new opportunities presented to us. And then it gives on a few principles for those next chapters of our lives. And it's about planning. And it says, it is advantageous to have directions for the journey, but to have a guide is even better. And as Christians, we know that our guide is Jesus and the Bible. So, I'm a huge proponent of that. And then another principle he says in the book of successful planning is preparing for life's inevitable experiences. And a third principle of success planning may be seen in the words of another poem. I plan for the future, I yearn for the past, and meantime, the present is leaving me fast. And he has here, it's written by Anonymous. So he finds the best quotes and poems. And he goes on to say, share Proverbs 3, verses 5 through 6. Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he will make your paths straight. So in all your ways, whether they're known, unknown, you're not sure which way to turn, lean on him and acknowledge him. Here's another really short little poem that he shared. I do not ask thy way to understand, my way to see. Better in darkness just to grasp thy hand and follow thee. And that's by Minnie Louise Haskins in the book God Knows. The final thing I was going to share is, the whole title of the book is Another Tassel Moved. And most of us, are familiar with the mortar boards, the hats that graduates wear. And there's always that tassel hanging down. And he says here, speakers feel compelled to remind graduates that commencement means beginning. The tassel moving experience signifies the old giving way to the new. Graduation suggests renewal, a progressive unfolding of life. And that's true to one extent. But it brought me back, and it's interesting how God makes connections and brings things to light at specific times. So recently, I was reading, actually I dated it. It was April 21st when I was reading. Because when I read the Bible, I usually try to take notes, and I'm a prolific note taker. But back in April, I was reading in the book of Numbers, and it brought me to Numbers chapter 15, verses 37 through 41. And let me read that to you. It says, Again, the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, Speak to the children of Israel. Tell them to make tassels on the corners of their garments throughout their generations, and to put a blue thread in the tassel of the corners. And you shall have the tassel, that you may look upon it, and remember all the commandments of the Lord, and do them, and that you may not follow the harlotry to which your own heart and your own eyes are inclined. And that you may remember and do all my commandments, and be holy for your God. I am the Lord your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt to be your God. I am the Lord your God. So there, God instituted tassels. Isn't that interesting? And so part of my thought processes and what he was revealing to me that day, I wrote down, it said, these were my thoughts, tassels to be placed on garments as reminders of God's commandments and to do them. They were to be placed on the corners of each person's garments. So that's the foundation, the cornerstone of who we are. They were to include, those tassels are to include blue thread. And I looked up in a concordance, no, not in the concordance, online actually, what blue in the Bible represents, the color blue. And it says healing power of God. It represents the word of God and the presence of Yahweh, God. So that blue is so important have his presence with us and his healing power. So if we make those mistakes, he's got it covered. Also, the tassels are to remember God, his commandments, and to be holy for him. And so, he set them aside as reminders. He told the people to wear reminders of him. So I got to thinking, what reminders of God's commandments and to be set apart for him do we wear today? Do we? Sometimes you see people wearing crosses, but I've actually discovered a company that actually creates jewelry and different things that affirm God's word and truths. And so today I'm actually wearing this bracelet right here, and it says, remember the Lord your God. He is the one who gives you power to be successful. So can't do things in my own power. It's God. So just those little reminders that we can wear sometime mean all the world. It can make all the difference too. So I just hope that today's episode has been encouraging for you if you're facing a new life experience, going to be turning a new chapter in your life, or if you know someone who is, please share this episode with them. Share some of the books that I've recommended. And let me just check the comments, see if there's anything there. But as always, I'm so glad that you've joined me. I'm privileged to share with you. And I hope to see you back next Thursday at 10 a.m. here on my Facebook author page, as well as over on YouTube. Be sure to like and follow those or subscribe on YouTube so you don't miss out on episodes, and also announcements about future blog posts and events coming up. So with that, I will let you go. Have a wonderful, blessed day. Take care.